get her going. Get her going. Okay, good morning. This August 23rd meeting of Madera County Board of Supervisors is called to order. Rhonda, anything new on the agenda?
I have no additions to the agenda. I believe County Council has something.
County Council?
I do. In closed session, the existing litigation Guadagnini will not be discussed and will be brought before the board when it's more timely.
Okay, would you please read the items into closed session?
Yes. There are 4 items for closed session. Conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The county negotiators are Adrian Caleb, and the employee organization are all units. Public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. The title of the position is County Administrative Officer. There are 2 existing litigation matters. The first is Madera County Farm Bureau versus the County of Madera, and the second is the City of Chowchilla versus the County of Madera.
Thank you. Anything from the public? Let's go to closed session. Okay, we're back in session. Council, would you read anything in closed session?
No, there are no reportable actions from closed session.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Dave, would you do the invocation for us, please? Let's all pray.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity together as a community and as friends and neighbors. We pray for your wisdom in our deliberations, that we might always be mindful of what is best and right and good. We ask for those young men and women on foreign fields of battle, that you would protect them, give them courage and strength, help them to know that they're cared about and loved at home. I pray that our nation may provide for their needs and continue to look to the needs of those that have served this country with honor and distinction. We ask that you would bless our country, help us to become once again united as we're so divided. And we ask for our region, especially, a blessing of water and provision, that we might continue to be productive and produce the world's food supply. We ask all these blessings and favors in the name of Jesus our Lord. Amen.
Before we say the pledge, does anybody want to say anything about the members on the board? The members? Go ahead, Beth.
We lost a very important person to me. I didn't read it there, but Jack Perrialis. To those that knew what how passionate he was about life and his friends and the city of Madera, and he just meant the world to me. And my prayers and thoughts with Paula in her time of loss.
Anybody else? I'd like to say a few words about Gino Petrucci. It seems like the last 6 months or so we've lost a lot of Petrucci here in Madera. And Gino was a good guy. And prayers go out to the family and of the whole Petrucci family. We've been suffering for about 6 months now for a long time to keep our family going. Max, can you join me in reading the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Consent calendar.
I just happen to have a couple things.
Ready? Ready, sir.
Item W, I just wanted the public to know that if they haven't looked at that, they're hiring 2 firemen for that for the Riverstone project, and I just want everybody to know that every project we've done since I've been on the board, they've had to pay their own way. They've had to have water balance, had to have a fire station, do the schools, the whole works, and that's on the agenda, showing that they are stepping up to the plate to do that. And item Z, it's the dollars for the lunch buddy for the big Boys and Girls Club. I just wonder if we could get any money for Eastern Madera County now. Right now, the private people up there are funding all that, and I just wondered if we could do that or not, Eric. Did you hear me, Eric?
Maybe Chief Dupree may want to come up and respond to that.
Yes,
good answer.
Good morning, Board. Rick Dupree, Probation Department. We fund Big Brothers Big Sisters, who enters into contracts with the different schools in the county. I know they're looking to contract with as many schools as possible. I'm not sure if they've reached out to Eastern Madera County or not, but I will follow up on it and get back to you on that.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I'd just like to have Norm come up and explain L a little more. Norm?
Say what?
Would you break down L for the public for me, please?
While he's coming up, I want to just say a word about item K, the tree mortality. I was in the Sierra Nevada mountain range this last weekend. Even coming through Yosemite, I was shocked at the number of dead trees. It's shocking to see how many dead trees there are. in the forest. I don't know how we're going to solve this problem. I don't know how we're going to address it. But the legislature in California apparently just cut the funding for that. And I don't understand their logic. When you consider the poor policies that have led to the circumstance that surround the dead trees in the forest, mismanaged forests are becoming a huge problem for the state of California. And we're going to continue to spend billions of dollars on fighting forest fires if we don't spend an ounce of money on a pound of cure. And it would be so evident that this needs to be done if they would just go up there and look. Anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Norman Allender. This is a tax sharing agreement to permit the annexation of the new school property that we sold to Madera Unified School District. They're actually under construction there by the county campus, and to annex, any annexation has to have a tax sharing agreement. This is similar to the ones we do with the water districts, because this is what's called a non-tax sharing agreement, since the property won't be generating property tax and there aren't any services being exchanged. So this is specific just to that one piece of property, and I wanted to make sure, and it is definitely staff supports it, and we think it's a good thing to get this thing done. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Phil. Okay, anything else from the board? To the public? Consent calendar?
Item W. I was reading the development agreement, and it requires, I'm sorry, Dale Drozen, Madera. The development agreement requires, before any construction begins, including on model homes, that they build a temporary fire station. I haven't seen anything before the board to change the development agreement, and there's no temporary fire station.
So the temporary fire station, the actual building itself, Riverstone went ahead before they were required to install that modular home, which the homeowner association agreed on and the board. So that was installed prior to construction. And then we're right in the middle of the process of remodeling the current station to make public access for the office space and some ADA compliance stuff. So that's in the process now, and the station was in place prior to us increasing the staffing, was the requirement for the temporary station. So Riverstone actually did that before they were required. So it's there, Dale, and I'll gladly give you a tour of it anytime you'd like. So.
Just a clarification, there is no homeowners association in Rolling Hills. That was dropped several years ago. It's just a loose knit, they have no negotiating power for the citizens. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public? Bring it back. Come on up here. It's not on anything on the board, right? Consent calendar? Consent calendar?
No. Okay. That would be public comment.
That would be public comment in a minute. Okay, thank you.
I'll move to approve.
Second. Okay, we have a first and a second. First from Dave, second from Brett. Call for the vote.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay. Read public comment.
Public comment. The first 15 minutes of each regular session is set aside for members of the public to comment on any item within the jurisdiction of the board, but not appearing on the agenda. Items presented under public comment may not be discussed or acted upon by the board at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public is invited to comment at the time the item is called for consideration by the board. Any person addressing the board under public comment will be limited to a 3-minute presentation to ensure that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak. Any handouts to the board must be submitted to the chief clerk of the board for distribution to the supervisors. Anyone addressing the board needs to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium. Also, all persons addressing the board must state their name and county of residence for the record.
Before we start, you basically have 3 minutes, and would you everybody please sign that the clipboard right there in front of you, and make sure you have your name in it. And I'd ask for public comment from the board first. Anybody from the board, public comment? Okay. Dale?
Dale Drozen, Madera County. I missed the last meeting, and I tried to watch it online. And either live or recorded, it's almost impossible to hear what's going on. The sound system that is going on recorded and online needs to be fixed. There's a lot of people listening to it. A lot of them commented to me that they can't understand what's being said. Thank you.
Thank you. We've been working on it.
Working on it hard.
Okay.
Susan White, District 2 of Madera County, and I'm addressing item 6J. I am disturbed that it has again become necessary to address this board regarding your pending decision on giving yourselves another pay raise.
This is not.
It's on the agenda. This is public comment. Thank you. You can voice your opinion when it's on the agenda.
I apologize, and thank you for the clarification.
No problem. Thank you.
Good morning, Supervisor. Derek Robinson. I live at 1806 Monroe Avenue, Madera City. And I was approached by a person named Frank Hogan, and I spent all Monday morning riding with him, looking at bike lanes, and he was interested in asking me about coming here and speaking for him concerning the need for safe routes to school. Like for instance, on Elder Street, from Persian Elementary to Dasman, and I know it's strapped for cash for fixing roads, but maybe we can paint some lines for bikes. That'd be my endeavor to come up and approach you about this concerning safety for our kids. Clean Air Act, health-wise. So thank you very much for that.
Max would like to say something.
Derek, Frank also contacted me, and I've been talking to Norman here. We're going to take a drive out there. Maybe Frank can go with us if you want to go with us also, to bring it to our attention personally so that we can get the blinds on those areas there. But we're on your side. We want to get it done. Thank you for appearing.
Thank you. Thanks, Derek. Next.
Jack Porter, 1625 Howard Road, Madera, California. I would hope that if you have an item on the agenda today or in the future that concerns the public, that you don't hide it in closed session like you tried to do in July, and that you don't make it the last item of the day when people have left. You have people in here today who would like to talk to you about 6J. Are you going to call it before noon, Rick? Or are you going to call it at 4 o'clock when everybody's not here, Rick? When will it be called?
Thank you for your comments, Jeff.
Thank you very much. And if anyone online would like one of these T-shirts, they're available on Big Valley News.
Hey, Jack, I'd like to buy one, please. Thank you. Just for a reminder. Okay, let's back to the board, and let's go to A and B. We already approved the minutes.
6A, Agricultural Commissioner, Sealer of Weights and Measures. Presentation of the 2015 Madera County Crop and Livestock Report by the Agricultural Commissioner.
Chairman Farinelli, Supervisor Stevie McNeil, Madera County Ag Commissioner, and it's my great pleasure today to present to you the 2015 Madera County Crop and Livestock Report. I just want to emphasize that these are farm gate values. These do not represent profit or loss to the growers. This is the gross farm gate value. So the production value for 2015 was $2,017,446,000. Now this represents a 10.95 decrease from 2014 prices, and this was mainly reflected in per unit commodity prices such as per ton or hundredweight, and this was especially noted in almonds and milk pricing. And despite the decrease, I'd just like to point out that Even though it was a 10.95% decrease, for the second year in a row, we have exceeded $2 billion in farm gate value. And so for an overview of the crop categories, apiary saw almost a 12% increase due to the number of colonies that were registered in here. And, of course, that's related to almond acreage. And field crops were down a little due to some water issues and a little conversion of some acreage into permanent crops. Fruit and nut crops saw almost a 7% decrease to falls in per unit prices, especially in the almond sector. Forest products saw an increase of almost 110%, and this is due to, sometimes you'll see in our crop report, if the timber goes up, down, it really has nothing to do with the logging industry anymore, which is pretty much decimated, but it has to do with contracts. And the State Forest Service puts out contracts a couple years ahead of time, so if one of those years hits to where we have a lot of contracted acreage in the county, you will see an increase like we did this last year. Livestock and poultry saw an 8% increase, and livestock and poultry products were down almost 38%, and this was about some devastating price reductions in the dairy sector. Those guys are really taking it. Nursery products saw a 15% increase, and this is mainly related to agricultural crop production and nursery stock. Vegetable products were up a little slightly, about 2 to 3%. This has to do with each year we're seeing a slight increase in contracted acreage for processing tomatoes. So here are the top 10 crops for 2015. And again, grapes, last year milk overtook grapes. This year grapes again takes over milk. And again, that has to do with devastating prices the dairymen suffered this last year. Field crops, which are something that if you're trying to cut back on water, it's easier to eliminate them than a permanent crop. And so we had a couple rankings of field crops drop off, and the processed tomatoes and the nursery production stock moved up a little. So I just wanted you to know that Madera County has a worldwide presence. We export to about 70 countries around the world, and our main exports are almonds, grapes, and raisins. I'd just like to point out one thing of pride. Of the 58 counties in California, we are ranked number 9 in production values. So we're running with the big dogs, and that's something to be really proud of. And I'd like to mention that our crop report will be posted to our website. We do have a few copies that we will put in the back here, but for most people, the preferred method is to get it electronically. So as soon as I leave here, I will send it to IT, and we'll take care of that. So any questions?
Say number 9 in the state of California. That means number 9 in the world.
You know, it depends on how they're doing their rankings, if it's just on gross farm gate prices, if it's on exports and a whole bunch of other things. You know, there can be all sorts of different rankings. But in California, each ag commissioner is required by law to send a crop report to the Secretary of Food and Ag in California. And so this is based on those figures, the farm gate figures for California. But pretty good, number 9. Pretty good.
Anybody else? Pretty good. I find the dairy industry, like you said, really has hit a hit. And is there any reason for it?
That is all government pricing. They're at the mercy of the government. I'm sure most of the dairies are in Supervisor Rogers' districts. I'm sure he's gotten an earful on this. And they are just totally at the mercy of government pricing.
For a fact,
so mandated pricing on milk industry.
Yes.
For a fact, California refuses to address the cream price, and the Secretary of Agriculture has refused to adjust that to the standards of the country, the federal standard. The federal standard is what they would like to go to because it's higher, and it's more evenly across the board. Why we have our own pricing structure in California, I don't know, but it sure hammers. Well, I do know. It's a conspiracy to get rid of dairies. They continue to hammer dairies because they say that they produce greenhouse gases, and that's the whole thing.
I do feel bad for the dairymen, but as a pizza man, it's not a bad thing right now where there's no prices. Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, one thing is with the processing tomatoes, there's a good chance that when you eat your pizza, you're getting a tomato from Madera County on it.
Yeah, most likely, yeah. That's, a lot of times we send it up to Stockton, then it has to come back down to here. Like, don't you just give it to me and we'll save some money on the middleman.
I believe we have 39,000 acres of dairies in Madera County. Most of that's in my district.
That's correct. So I'm sure that you've heard a lot about this, and I agree they've fought that battle trying to go to the federal pricing thing for several years, and it's been an uphill battle.
There was a proposition, I believe it was 31 or 30, that they attempted to put through to adjust that, and just didn't even get off the ground. So there's a failure to recognize that the dairy industry is really important to California.
It'll be interesting next year when you do this report to see where the net value is and with all the new nuts coming on.
Yeah, two things. First,
I noticed that I don't see it on the report. I was trying to look through it. Isn't there a lot of open land being bought?
What I have seen more this year than in the past is pulling out grapes and putting in almonds. So it's kind of like switching one for the other. I will say that I plan to come back in the near future and do a little update on my land production and conversion on where we are on that. But it's slowed down some to where, like I say, what we're seeing is pulling out grapes, putting in almonds. So
they're both pretty comparable on water.
Actually,
probably use less.
It's a science, and they've really gotten it down good. But you can stress grapes more for a longer period than you can almonds.
Right. Chairman, I do have the numbers here. I bring them with me lots of times because this comes up so often. So, consistent using the farmland mapping program, which is through the Department of Conservation, which is what we all use. Here's your chart. But the amount of grazing land that was converted into irrigated land, that commissioner's correct. It is slowing down. In the 2010 to 2012, they do 2-year time frames. A total of 7,600 acres were converted from grazing into irrigated. From the 2012 to 2014 time frame, that's significantly reduced down to 3,600 acres in those time frames. So that's what's happened. Of course, the 14-16 numbers won't be out for a while. So when you look at the conversion there, those are the most recent numbers. And then if you see over the years, though it's been up and down, the red one is the delta. And so there's been years where you converted irrigated back into more irrigated back into grazing in some years, but in the last 6 years, it's all been going the other way. So I just wanted to give you that information.
So it has gone the other way.
It's slowing down.
In other words, slowing down.
The amount of
less land to buy.
That sometimes it has gone the other direction.
So in 2000 to 2002, about 800 acres were converted from irrigated back into grazing. And in 04 to 06, and from 04 to 08, 2,800 acres were converted from irrigated back into grazing. So it does go back and forth, and it has a lot to do with what the Ag Commissioner is saying. It has to do with the market, right, and what's working at commodity prices.
Well, look at the mid-2000s when we pulled out over 100,000 acres of grapes because of market value and stuff like that. And that's just showing a shift in market.
Yes, sir.
How a farmer has to make his money.
So in the last,
I like the free market.
Yeah. Yes, sir. As do I.
On the almonds, I will say that last year was a great year for pricing, but it was a very high year. I like to think that the market is kind of equalizing. So it did go down some. It's still a good price. It's not as great as last year, but I prefer to think that we're kind of equalizing things out a little.
Phoebe, I was just going to ask you that question. Do you have a rundown as far as the price of almonds in the last 5 years?
I can get that, but I know when I was here as an inspector in the early 90s, we made a bet in the office that, in 7 years it was going to top out. Well, 2000 came and went, and it's 15 years later, and it's just, going like this. So, like Norm said, this is a world market. And those days, who would have thought of almond milk? I wouldn't have. There's so many products that they come up with now. It just seems to be never ending. So as long as there's demand, supply will step up to it.
But another element on that is oversaturation. We have so much of it. And the price has dropped quite a bit.
For almonds, yeah, almonds and milk were the two that really took it this last
I've
time.
heard some of the farmers are considering going to other crops because the price has dropped quite a bit, drastically stopped.
I wouldn't doubt that. Yes.
Yeah, Norm, so in the last 10 or 20 years, how many grazing land has been converted over? I think the one time you guys said 20 or 40,000 acres in Madera County?
I could get you that number very quickly. You know I have a general rule. I don't do math from the podium.
Yeah.
So I'll go do some math, and I can report back to you.
Thank you.
But I've got it right here. I just need to go in the back room and do some math. I can report that back later, yes. Thank you.
And I will be doing my update on the conversion and the land use here in a month or so.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Stevie. Great job.
Always a great report, and a lot of dedication goes into that report. And I like the last page on the water, the rainfall and stuff like that. That is really an indicator of what's happening.
I'd like to put that in to show people the history and not get too comfortable because we got a little rain. So it's kind of dramatic to look at. I like putting it in there.
Thank you.
Good idea.
Okay, that was a report presentation. Thank you. Okay, 6B.
6B, Board of Supervisors, District Number 3, discussion and direction of approval of a resolution declaring support for In God We Trust as the national motto and tentatively approving the future display of the motto in the board chambers.
Hello, good morning. My name is Roger Leach. I'm a resident here of Madera City, but I also own property in the county. And I have too changed my farming habits in the last few years. I have to put these things together because I have to have some little props once in a while. And we have a presentation that you have. I'm not going to read all of the words that are here, but I was interested that on the very front of your dais that you have the Constitution of the United States. And within it, the first part of the introduction, George Washington was administered the oath of, or affirmation of office as prescribed by Article 2, Section 1 on April 29th, 1789, to which he added, "So help me God." And then he made a few brief remarks. It's just interesting to see about our history. I wanted to share with you that this is not something that is new. The phrase appeared back with the Star-Spangled Banner when it was during the War of 1812. It was written by Francis Scott Key in the fourth stanza when he said that in God is our trust. It was also, again, put on the first $20 interest bill that was in 1864. It's interesting that I have a new printing of a $20 bill that was Series 2013. That it's kind of interesting that on the back of it, there's the White House. And right above the White House, it says, "In God We Trust." One of my whole purpose of doing this is that over this last year, I've heard our president and contenders for the office refer to our national motto as "In Pluribus Unum." That is on the Great Seal, and there is a motto on the Great Seal that says that, "Out of many one." But that is not our national motto, and these people are wrong. And even though that they hold our highest office, is that what's going to happen in the next few years if we don't really start to put this out in front of people, is that it will go into the background, and it'll be forgotten. Our children will never know what's going on. So this was really basically my purpose here today. And the next item that you see is actually that stanza, the fourth stanza, and you can see that I would love for this to be sung in our Star-Spangled Banner and a lot of times in our national anthem, but you can see again, "In God is our trust." Congress passed a bill in 1864 authorizing the minting of the 2-cent coin where it was put "In God We Trust." So it goes back a long time for that. Another act of Congress was in 1865 to where that all of the gold and silver coins should have the inscription of "In God We Trust" on it. Then continually the gold coins after that. In 1956, there was a 84th Congress that had PL Public Law 84-140 that was signed by President Eisenhower. And it's interesting that I do have the silver dollar that is with Eisenhower. It says, "In God We Trust," under his name. It's interesting that I also have Statuio, which was again printed in 2000, that also has right beside her face, "In God We Trust." Susan B. Anthony, that great woman of the women's suffrage rights, her dollar has right in front of her face, "In God We Trust." And then the most recent coinage that we have, I have one of 2004, which was one of the presidential dollars that everybody says, well, where's that coinage at? Where's that motto at? You have to actually look on the side, and you can see it, "In God We Trust." I think that, right, it's starting to get farther and farther away. So it's time for us to make some kind of stand. This was, again, actually a law that was put in concerning "In God We Trust." Then in 1964, all of our Federal Reserve notes were put in. Notes of 1, 5s, 10s, 20s, 50s, and $100 bills had the motto of "In God We Trust." In 2002, 2011, the U.S. House of Representatives voted to affirm the national motto. It's interesting that they also said within it that this resolution encourages the public to display the motto in all public buildings, including schools and government institutions. I thought that was very interesting. There was a federal lawsuit in 2003. It was drug out through the courts through 2005. This was started out in Davidson County in North Carolina. It had gone through the federal district court in Greensboro, but it was also won through the Court of Appeals to uphold the national motto. It was appealed all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court referred it back to the appellate court, saying what was done there at the appellate courts was correct. I know that I cannot ask you to fund this motto, but what I can do is, if you approve a resolution, I can go out and I can raise funds. It's interesting that just a month ago we went before the City Council. They unanimously approved the motto that would be put on their public building, and almost immediately I had people that would say, "I'll donate $100, $200 to put it up." I would imagine that bronzed or ionized aluminum type of signage, about 4 to 6 inches, would run somewhere around $1,000. I could have that raised overnight as soon as we, if you, again, approve this resolution. A nonprofit organization down in Bakersfield. It's called "In God We Trust America." They started saying some of their type of literature says that in 2015, over 531 cities and counties have approved the motto and displayed it in their public meeting rooms. In 2016, like I said, there was 226 cities in California that approved, one being in August the 9th, as far as the city of Madera. There's also other states that I've listed on the PowerPoint. Like I said, the currency also has the Latin phrase "E pluribus unum," which again means "out of many one." And if you so choose, we could do 2 of them. We could have the seal and also our national motto. That is your discretion. I'm glad to work on both of them. I really ask you to approve this resolution to where that not only that we can portray this not only in our county, but we can have children that come here from generations to see that the importance of having our national motto displayed. I wanted to tell you that in 2011, our House of Congress, our representatives voted, our congressman voted to reaffirm the motto of "In God We Trust." I put down the vote. It was 396 to 9. some pretty overwhelming support. I have included the 53 congressional districts on the next slide. And it's really interesting that if you go through here, you can start to see down about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Nancy Pelosi's voted yes. All of our congressional people within our valley, starting with the 18th congressional districts all the way through the 22nd, have all voted yes. Out of this whole list, there was 48 yay, or yes votes, 3 no votes, and 2, when I say no votes, nay votes, and then there was 2 people that did not vote out of all those counties. This next slide has that as well. The next slide that is actually a color slide over our nation's congressional chair, the Speaker of the House's chambers. It says right over the top of the seat, above the flag, it says, "In God we trust." And so our national motto is displayed in our national actually meeting room for our public. The next slide actually has the law, and I'm not going to read that, but again, providing for the legal inscription to be placed on all of our monetary items. One of the things that I wanted to say on this, one of the last slides, is that the United States has an official language which is called English. We have other words from all of the other nationalities or ethnic groups or people of our world that have words for God. Native Americans, as far as the Sioux Nation, has their word for God. Hindu, Muslim, Assyrian, Spanish, Jewish, English, Russian, and German. So in those countries, they would use the word God in that language. But our language here in the United States is English, so we use the word God. So we're not offending anyone as far as any religion. It's interesting that the Jewish faith, the Muslim faith, and the Christian faith all refer back to one ancestor, and that ancestor is Abraham, found in the Quran, found in the Jewish Bible text of the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, and in the Christian faith. So we all can flow back to one central ancestor. Also, I did want to mention that if any of you have these coins in your purse or wallet, and if you do not really care for the national motto, I would gladly take that away from you. I would love, I would love to have that. If people do not. So it is important to where that we start to look and we start to agree with our founding fathers all the way through with our national motto. And thank you for allowing me, President. I would also just like to include, if you would like for me to work on coloring in that seal to your colors, it's a great seal, it's a great logo, but I still look like that we're going into a dark tunnel at the eastern end of the county, and I would love to see that colored. I would work on that as well.
Kind of like our mosaic.
Yes, just like our mosaic out there. I would love to have those colors in. So thank you for allowing me to have a presentation. If you have any questions.
Dave?
I just want to say that, there's no mistake when you visit Washington, D.C., you look at the different monuments throughout the area there, and the principles of the Bible are inscribed in stone everywhere. Stamping this out would be impossible because it's the foundations of our country. When you look at the history of our country in terms of the beginnings of the Congress, they would come to session and talk about what they had read out of the Bible the previous day and make laws or form the country based on those principles, and that's what they did. It was based on the Bible. And today, to reaffirm that in a motto would be respecting our founding principles, respecting and affirming a motto that has served this country through many world wars, through many conflicts, through many downturns of economy. And it seems that when we go through trial, we always go back to those roots on which this country was founded. It is such an important aspect of our society, and I believe it has been our mainstay and our guide and will continue to be so. I wholeheartedly support it.
Anything else from the board?
Public? Also, I'd like to give this opportunity. I didn't say anything, but on the ag report, if anybody else has anything on the ag report they'd like to talk about, come up now too. Okay, we will bring it back to the board.
I will move that we approve this resolution.
Second. Okay, got a first from Dave, a second from Colin. Call for the vote. County Council.
Chairman, members of the board, on your agenda, it says direction of approval and tentative approval.
Right.
Just to clarify, would it be brought back on consent possibly for formal approval, just to make sure we have clear action?
My move would be to approve the resolution declaring support in God we trust and to direct the proponent of this to come back with a concept.
And design and everything.
Design.
And the coloring of this too?
Yeah. Okay.
Put that in there and I'll second that.
Absolutely.
I believe I understand the motion. Thank you so much. Call for the vote. Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli? Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you, Roger.
Were you offering me that gold piece?
Here it is. I usually give it to the waitresses. You look like a waitress today, so I'll give it to you. Oh, come back to me.
Wow.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go to the 10 o'clock hearing. Did you go to the public?
Yes, I did go to the public.
I'm sorry, but after that, it was how it was set up to be on the consent calendar was the discussion.
No.
It was direction
For them to come back.
So
it's not going to be on the consent calendar. It's going to be on a regular.
It's direction to come back.
Okay. 7A, County Administration Department, Human Resources Operations Division. Hearing to consider an ordinance amending Chapter 2.57.070 and Chapter 2.60.120 of Title II of Madera County Code pertaining to the pre-employment medical examination process.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Adrienne Caleb reporting this morning. This item is before you for the second hearing in regards to modifying the way in which pre-employment medical examinations are conducted for prospective employees. Currently, all employees, regardless of the physical demands of the job, go through pre-employment physical, and what this ordinance will change is the fact that only those classes that are physically demanding will be required to go through the actual exam, and then all county prospective employees will go through the TB screening process. And all of the rationale is outlined in your backup there, and I am open for any questions. And as well, our public health director is here this morning to speak if she'd like.
Any discussion from the board? The only thing I have is again what we talked about on this ordinance. Not all people are going to have the examination, correct? Everybody that we hire, they're not going to have the examination. It's just for certain people that will have the physical examination.
Correct.
So no more drug testing on certain people when we hire them.
The county never drug tested for pre-employment. The drug and alcohol policy does have provisions in it that allows department heads to move forward with drug testing after there is reasonable suspicion. There is a supported case law that states that public employers can only pre-employ drug tests if there is a direct nexus to the job. And in this proposal, that is not the direction that this ordinance is headed. We do have our drug and alcohol policy to protect us. We also have the precepts of the Disability ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, to deal with placing employees who do have qualifying disabilities. And if you have any questions about the case law, Chairman, County Council is prepared to respond to that.
Do we have anything set up? I know this is in the future, but come November, we're going to have a new drug bill that's going to, or a marijuana bill. Do we have any testing for that drug? Are we going to have any testing for that drug since it's going to be a recreational drug, just like beer or wine or whatever? I understand that there's nothing that tests that out there still to see if you're impaired or not.
I don't believe that is the case in the public health director.
We currently do tests for marijuana, the presence of marijuana for a variety of clients. We currently drug test clients at the request of probation and DSS.
That's clients.
Those are clients, not employees.
Not employees.
I believe, my understanding, and I would have to do some additional research, however, we would fall back on our drug and alcohol policy to test under reasonable suspicion. If you have someone who is in the workplace who comes to work and they are intoxicated, they cannot perform the functions of their job for that day, they're passed out on their desk, things of that nature are all things, a smell of alcohol, a smell of marijuana, those are all things that are provided to, well, our policy provides reasonable suspicion testing to our department heads. So we would fall back on that policy that was approved back in February of this year.
Just one more thing. I've called several, since we've been discussing this, I've called several of the private employers, the bigger ones in Madera County, and they are still drug testing. That's part of their pre-physical. And basically, they're down to just drug testing now. They don't do a physical type exercise, or 40 pounds or 50 pounds, or do the bench presses and all that stuff like they used to in the 70s and 80s. But they do, the private sector is still drug testing. So,
and I
thank you.
Anything else from the board?
Public? Bring it back to the board.
I move we approve.
Okay, got a first from Brett, second from Matt.
Oh, I didn't know that was great.
Go ahead, you didn't Tom. Okay, Tom. He's giving it up to you.
We were doing it this way.
Go ahead,
I'm going first and Matt second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
No.
Vote passes 5-0.
No.
No, I said no.
You
Oh,
said
I'm
no.
sorry. Vote passes 4-1.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you guys want to take a 5-minute break? Yeah, please.
Okay. We're going to take a 5-minute break and be right back.
6H, County Administration Department, Human Resources Operations Division. Discussion and consideration to approve salary adjustments for elected department heads in recognition of years of elective service.
Good morning again, Chairman, members of the board. This item is an item that is before you to consider additional compensation for years of service for elected department heads. Attached to this item is a sheet that would show what the annual salaries for each of our elected department heads would be, commencing with the 6th year of elected service and the 9th year of elected service. At this point in time, based on the years of experience of our elected officials, there will be 2 individuals who would be eligible for this increase. And those 2 are the county clerk reporter and the treasurer tax collector. With that said, I am open for any questions.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Please get in line over here, please.
Jack Porter. Hey, I got the question.
Check the address check.
For 1625 Howard Road.
Thank you.
The question I had is the last meeting you talked about, or Eric talked about experience before they became an elected. Just using Jay Varney as an example, would his experience as a chief in Chowchilla put him automatically at the new level?
If I could clarify, Mr. Chairman, what I had discussed under the context of looking at previous experience was dealing with appointed department heads. I wanted to highlight that the board often exercises the flexibility to place an appointed department head in a different place on the longevity scale based on their years of previous experience. That would not apply to elected.
It would not. Okay. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Morning.
Brandy Curran. I'm in District 1, and I'm the SEIU president and a 25-year employee with Department of Social Services. I'd like to respectfully address this agenda item in regards to the longevity increase at 6 and 9 years. I would question, the equivalent in this increase is not granted to county employees who work full-time until their 20th year. I would question why employees wouldn't be granted the same benefit for their loyalty and hard work.
Thank you. Adrian, you want to address that? No, we'll let
Dale Drozen, Madera County. I'll just be quick. I'm opposed to it. I think the longevity bonus is getting voted back into office again. Thank you.
To address the issue that was just brought forth by Ms. Curran, I believe it's Curran, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. I'm going to go back to a statement that was made by our county administrative officer at the last meeting. And it is provided to these elected officials in recognition of the fact that it is a major feat if they do get reelected. And the bonus, the second bonus would come and commence after the second elected term. And their life in those positions are unknown. And so that this proposal that's before you is in recognition of that.
Thank you. Just bring us $10 up. We don't care. Got to pay for our water.
Okay.
It was just about to get good.
Any more from the public on 6H? Bring it back to the board.
I move we approve item 6H.
Second. Have a first from Tom. Second from Brett.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
No.
Supervisor Farinelli?
No.
Vote passes 3-2.
Okay, 6I.
6I, County Administration Department, Human Resources, Operations Division. Discussion and consideration of approval to adopt the salary resolution and fringe benefit schedules for the elected, classified, and unclassified service.
The item that's before you actually is an item that is typically on your consent calendar because it is a summary of all of the previous actions that have been approved by the board, whether that be granting increases, whether that be adding new positions into the county classification plan. And the reason why this is actually on a timed item is because the item that you just approved is actually included into this document. We need to have all of the approved salaries that are approved by the board. We need to have it in one published document, and that's what this document accomplishes. I am open for any questions. And the summary of everything that has been amended since the last adoption is included in the board letter.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Bring it back to the board.
I move we approve item 6I.
Do I have a second? I have a first from Tom, second from Max. Call for the vote.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez? Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
No.
Supervisor Farinelli?
No.
Vote passes 3-2.
Thank you.
6J, County Administration Department, Human Resources Operations Division. First hearing to consider an ordinance amending the annual salary for members of the Board of Supervisors effective December 1st, 2016. Waive the reading and set the second hearing for September 13th, 2016.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This item was discussed at the last board meeting. It simply brings your board into the median with comparable county supervisors, as has been done with all other classifications within the County of Madera. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Paul?
Yeah, I would, the backup says that it would be 10% on top of the 42. I'd rather have it 8% so we had got up to the 50%. I thought that's what we had talked about. Whoever makes a motion, I'd like to make sure that's clear. We can change that, okay, right?
Are you referring to the longevity
Yes.
pay?
Yeah.
That has already been approved. If you want to change the longevity pay, the item would need to be reworked and come back to your board.
No, I mean, the 2%'s already in, right?
No, that's only for you and Max and David. I'm the ones that have that.
But that's approved. It's still the same numbers in the same year, amount of years of service?
Yes, if I may explain, Supervisor Wheeler, what the calculation represents. It was last year when there was an approval to add in an additional 5% on top of the salary for board members who commence their 6 year service. Based on the salary of the Superior Court judge at that particular point in time, a 5% increase on the base 40% pay translated into 42.5%, or excuse me, 42%, excuse me, 42. This time, with the salary of the Superior Court judge, that same 5% translates into 52.5%. And that's why you have the 50 and the 52.5. It's the same 5% that was already approved back in 2015.
Okay, I misunderstood.
That's what it is.
Okay. So I had it wrong.
David? Yeah, I just want to simply state that I have never voted myself a raise of any kind throughout my tenure, either with the city of Chowchilla as an elected representative or the county. Period.
Thank you. Anything else from the board? To the public?
Dale Drozen, Madera County. I've got a copy of a salary study done by CPS HR Consulting. The board accepted it around August 18th, 2015. It cost the taxpayers $52,000 plus. The results of that, I believe, were used during negotiations with the employees to set their salaries. The finding of it on the Board of Supervisors was that you are receiving 8.72% above the median salary. They surveyed 10 counties. Now, I couldn't believe how the numbers could be so different, but when you cherry pick 5 counties out, Fresno County has 10 times the budget to manage that you do. You can skew the numbers and show that you should have a raise. But when you look at the study that we paid over $50,000 for, it says you're already paid 8% more than the median. So I'm assuming that's your justification. The board is looking to be paid with lobster and steak in a county that is eating beans and hot dogs. I mean, this is a reasonably poor county when you look at across the board the median income. And for you to go an additional 25% when the study that we paid $50,000 for says you are already 8% above the median for those 10 counties that are studied does not seem reasonable. So please vote no on that.
Now I'm here at the right time. Susan White, District 2, Madera County. And there may be a few percentage amounts that may be different than the previous speaker. I'm going based on some information that I found and was provided. I'm disturbed that it has again become necessary to address this board regarding your pending decision on giving yourselves another pay raise. I addressed you all before when you were about to give yourselves a raise, before many county employees were given a raise to bring them parity with comparable counties. At that time, some county employees were paid almost 40% below parity. I believe you decided not to give yourselves a raise due to the outcry and public scrutiny you were facing. Whether it was due to a change of heart or concern over campaigning for pending political races, only you know. Now we're dealing with this again. You work for us. Do you honestly believe that we would support a pay increase for you? If so, put it on the ballot and let your constituents vote on the matter. Last year, you commissioned a study that was previously addressed to determine a market median for all county employees. It was this board's direction to include board members' pay in the survey. That survey showed that you're being paid 7.43% above median pay. Why now is the CAO only using 5 counties to compare instead of the 10 counties used in the survey that you paid good taxpayer money for? Why now is the board even considering raising their own pay to 35% above market median? Would your CAO recommend paying all county employees 35% above the market median? I certainly hope not, because we all know that Madera County can't afford that, and truthfully, we can't afford to pay you 35% above market median. If you disagree, I respect your right to do so, but do you really expect the taxpayers to believe that we need a public safety sales tax increase when we can afford to pay you such a lavish wage? A majority of my career has been spent in public safety, and I appreciate this board thoughtfully considering how to begin addressing years of inadequate public safety funding in Madera County. However, I fear that many taxpayers like me will see that giving yourselves a 25% pay increase, then asking us to pay more taxes is both absurd and unjustified. Should you proceed with increasing your pay, I fear that a majority of taxpayers will respond by voting no on the tax increase. Lastly, on a side note, in the future, because of previous meetings, I expect members of this board to treat those who exercise their right to be heard in this public forum with the utmost respect and to truly hear what we're saying. You have all been elected to represent your constituents, and it's time to listen to us and represent us. Contrary to what you and some others may believe, we're your bosses.
Next. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board of Supervisors. I'm Jerry King. When I'm on the clock, I'm your Assistant Chief with the Madera County Jail. But I'm here as a representative of the Mid-Management Group to ask basically for the same thing. You know, I see this board, and I've had the opportunity to work with all of you guys. Brett, I remember you in high school playing football. It was all about team with you. You were the leader of the team, and you were always encouraging everybody on the team to keep getting better and better. David, you and I have been on the wall together. You know, it's not about one guy making the summit. It's about all of us making the summit and doing what we can together. You know, and relying on each other. And right now, you guys are preparing to take this vote when we've got, I'll use Steve Von Flew at Central Garage as an example. This is a guy that keeps all of us going with vehicles. He does a great job, you know, where he's at, doing the job that he's doing. And if you were to look in the county to the north of us, I believe that guy makes about $1,500 a month more than what Steve's doing because he was misclassified. There are a lot of single men and women who have families that are trying to make it. And if the salary survey that you guys directed staff to prepare out from this third party, if that's good enough for everybody in the county, it should be good enough for all of us together as a team. And for you guys to say, well, that's good enough for all of you guys, but not us, that's kind of a slap in the face to the employees of the county. It's just not the right thing to do. I'll just close with this. General Norman Schwarzkopf. And going back to this, I remember when, for years, we were coming to the board talking about how we were losing good people to different departments, and to CDC and Fresno County and Merced, or wherever they were going. And we kept telling you we have these good, really good, talented people that are going somewhere else after we get them all trained up. Last year, Fresno was trying to lure Eric back. You know, and I remember David said, you know, we need to keep our good, talented people. I have no doubts that Eric's talented. He's not the best-looking guy, but I'm sure he's a talented guy at what he does. But we have a lot of talented people here, and to send this message is not the right message to the people of working for you. General Norman Schwarzkopf said this: the truth of the matter is that you know the right thing to do, and the hard part is doing it. So that's what we're asking for. Thank you.
Anybody else from public? Bring it back to the board.
I would like to make a comment before we vote on this. And I really have a really hard problem for this. And as all of you know, I was elected out. We did, and I want to make it public, that we did a 5% increase, not a 30% increase last year, like it was said in the papers or the media. And that was for people that had basically their 6th year in as an elected official. This Board of Supervisors makes half the amount of any other elected official in the whole county. Half. This Board of Supervisor is a judicial board, a law board, everything that happens in Madera County happens through this board. I don't care what study you look at, whatever you look at. I may not agree with the percentage, but to me, what I tried to do last January, and no one paid attention to it because they haven't paid attention basically for 4 years of what I've done and the money that I've saved, but I guarantee you the health department and the behavioral health department and the other health departments that we have saved tons of money along this board. And this board has established a new criteria that hasn't been seen in 20-some years. The things that we've solved with our new county council has saved this county a lot of money, whether you know it or not, or whether you look it up or not, or whatever you want to look at. Solar that we just put in, $15 million. That was a hard decision to make because solar is a
type of a sustainable program. $15 million every year back. That's just some of it. We brought this board brought us from a failure, and basically we were actually looking at bankruptcy when I started, to an A standard, Poor's and Standards board. That means that we can get loans for social services, we can get loans for projects, we can get different grants and bonds. I really have a hard time voting for this because I feel that the supervisor-elect should be here today and voice his opinion. And what I'm doing, if I do vote yes on this, I'm giving him a raise if he stays in. The reason, again, I did this every 6 years, so people would look, or whatever, would look at that person and what they have done for the county. What they have done for the county. Don't listen to media stuff. Don't listen to, because you hear that all day long throughout the United States. But actually look what this board has done for this county in a matter of a short 4 years, 3.5 years. It's an amazing board. So I just want to say that, and that's my piece. I would take an amendment to basically force the hand of the new supervisor-elect to put it off till January the 2nd meeting. So anyway, just to see where he goes. Tom?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your statements. First of all, I'd like to talk about some of the stuff that they were talking about, the $2 billion budget that Fresno has. It don't make no difference if it's 50,000 or 50 billion. It's all the same type of work that we got to do to make it balanced and have a successful county. That's the first thing that Dale brought up. The other thing, Jerry brought up a very good point. How do you keep good, talented people? How do you attract them? It's not easy sitting up here to vote yourself a raise. But the state legislatures do it, and Congress does it. And nobody's going to come up and just say, hey, Board of Supervisors, we're going to give you a raise. It don't work that way. We, as board members, I've been here a little over 10 and a half years. Like Rick said, we were about to go under, $13 million in the red, and we worked our tail off. We went from 1,700 employees to 1,100 employees now. We have to oversee those 1,100 employees. This is not an easy job. Anybody thinks it is, I'm up here and set in my shoes just for one day, and they'll find out it's not. To keep talented people and to attract talented people to be a supervisor, you got to take a lot of heat, and no matter how you vote, no matter what, half the people are going to like it, half the people are not going to like it. I don't care what it is, whether it's for a subdivision, for a raise for all of our employees. I took a lot of heat because we did that study, but when the counties that group used were not like counties like Madera County is. So that's the reason that I think staff went and done our like counties around us, because we all have the same problem, we have the same issues, and the same thing. And it still don't make no difference how much the budget is. That had nothing to do with it, because we all got to have all that. And do you want a full-time supervisor? If you don't want a full-time supervisor, well, then maybe we change this whole thing. I go 24/7. Anybody wants to argue with me to that, I'll sit and talk to anybody about it. It don't seem like it's a big county, but it is a big county. We're the biggest little county, I think, in the state of California. And that's the reason we have all these high numbers of people wanting to come here, our high rating now of our for loans and stuff. And it's just, we got to have so much knowledge up here. We got to have legal knowledge. We got to be able to negotiate. We got 13 bargaining units that we have to negotiate with almost every single year. And then we have to also represent all the non-represented units. And myself, just in my district, the other ones got all their own certain problems. but I represent North Fork, Oakhurst, South Fork, Bass Lake, O'Neill's, Corsco, Sugar Pine, Raymond, Bait Station, Yosemite Lakes, Sewanee, and not counting all the little communities, Mudge Ranch, Leisure Acres, Indian Lakes Estates, Teaford Meadows, Sierra Highlands, Hidden Lakes Estates, Sierra Lakes Estates, Kelshaw, Kelston Corners, Knolls, Oakhurst Knolls, Cascadel, Pines Village, Old Town, Cedar Valley, Forts Mountain, and many more. I put over 35,000 miles a year in my pickup. When I worked at the ranch, I did quite a bit of driving around. I probably maybe put 15,000 in my pickup. I can't believe the mileage that I put on that thing. It just drives me crazy. And then we have to have some knowledge of all these different departments. I mean, when we're making these decisions, just look at the agenda today and just count how many different departments that's on the agenda today, that if we don't know something about them, how can we make a good, knowledgeable decision on that thing if we don't know it? I mean, I was shocked when I first got elected. I knew there was a lot of work because I spent a lot of years on school boards and stuff, 19 years in fact. And there was a lot of stuff in the school board. But a school board is probably a fraction of what you have to know as a board of supervisors. I could probably go to a meeting at least 2 a day if I wanted to. I don't do as many as I used to because I got tired. Because there is just on our committees and boards that we're appointed to by the Board of Supervisors, I belong to 21 of them. And they're either from Sacramento to any place in the mountains or in the valley here that we have to go to. And a lot of those are night, those meetings. And I'm also on the Governor's Tree Mortality Task Force. I'm on the CSAC Indian Relations Committee. And so that means at least once a month you have to go to Sacramento. And at least once a year, some of us get to Washington to help benefit Madera County. Also, all the many civics and service events and groups. I have 4 chambers in my district. They all have fundraisers. And we don't have to go to those, I agree. But we do. And then some of the more important boards that we have to study. If you guys remember, we used to have packets of paper this big before we got it all on an iPad now, that we had to study that. But when you're on these other committees, like the San Joaquin Air Board, the Transportation Committee, the LAFCO, Tribal Relations, all those have all that homework that we have to do and know something about when we go in there and make that decision. It's not comfortable doing that. I'll tell you what, it's really not. And if you don't think you're on 24/7, just go to a restaurant or a grocery store or a gas station or just walk down the street. I went to the post office. All I was going to do was mail a package Saturday. 3 different people stopped me on one project that's coming up in front of us. And when I almost got in the pickup, another lady did. And she actually said, and she didn't think I was agreeing with her, she said, "You're just dirt, Tom Wheeler," and walked off. And I said, "Don't call me dirt, ma'am." She just kept walking. I don't know who she was. I live in North Fork all my life, and this woman I didn't know, but she thinks I'm dirt, I guess. So it's just hard, and it's really hard to try to vote yourself a raise. But if we don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. That's a given. So thank you.
You know, I've been on this board 11 and a half years. I've been with some good boards, good members, and but this board here is so diversified. But yet we work together and we get things done. We take care of employees. We couldn't do it when we had that recession, and we were highly criticized for doing so. They said we neglected them. But when things got better, we did what was right. Yes, we had studies, but studies cost a lot of money. But that's the only way when you can get some good answers to what direction you should go. All departments in Madera, before they used to be splintered and not working together. We've got a bunch of department heads that truly work together now. We're working towards the same goal, which is sex in Madera County. Let me give you an example. yesterday, I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, came over here, I had 5 people waiting for me, 4 people, got in the car, went to Sacramento. We got back about 10 o'clock that last night. We talked to as many legislators as we could for their staff, pushing projects that will create jobs here in Madera County to the tune of 1,500 jobs, highly paid jobs. I'm from the east side, and I see people that need jobs. They need good paying jobs. We have ag, and those jobs are good, and ag is doing great. But if you only work 7 or 8 months out of the year, and then you go down to social services to collect subsidies, that's not the way to go. Anyway, we went to Sacramento. We have a beautiful group of staff members, and they're going to make a report on what we did. But they accepted us in Sacramento like we were a county on the go. And we are. We have 2 projects. One, they've approved. There'll be 1,500 jobs. The other one will be about 1,000. And the main one, and I'm not going to mention it, they'll have a cluster around that. If we get it and we're on the road of success, that could amount to another 5,000 jobs, high-paying jobs. Folks, we're on the move. If we get these projects that are and our focus on our antenna, we're going to make this community move, and I'm excited. We have a good board here. These people are highly intelligent. This man here comes in at 7 o'clock every morning, stays until 5:30, then goes to meetings, and he does it 5 days a week. This guy here, I don't see how he does it. And I do the same thing. Then we have Dave out there, and then with CAO, we wanted to keep him. We were going to lose him. We came from a deficit of $12 million or something like that, and we're on our way. I think we're almost there. We gave good raises to our employees, and things continue getting better. We'll take the same scenario. We'll compensate our employees. This is what we have to do. So I hope you appreciate what might happen today. If not, then so be it. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We've already asked the public to talk. We're back to the board situation. But anyway, one more thing. I want you guys to pay attention to the election of city council this last time. Pay attention to what happened there. City council for 3 elections, no one ran against those people. No one. This last time we just got the 3 that we had before. A city council listens to staff because they are part-time people. This city council should have listened to staff back in 2006, 2007 to 2010. The city of Madera would have been a different place today if they would have listened to their staff, planning commission, instead of going against development. And I'm saying this, and I would be saying this no matter if I was going out or not. But look at what the city of Madera has become. Just look at that. You have to have 100% dedicated elected officials that gives you, as voters, 110% of their time to be able to make changes. This board has done that. Thank you. Do I have
I move that we waive the reading and set the second hearing for September 13th.
Have a first and a second. Call for the vote.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
No.
Supervisor Frazier?
No.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 3-2.
Thank you. Okay, which one are we going to go to? Okay, let's go back to 6C.
6C, Board of Supervisors Department. Update regarding the high-speed rail heavy maintenance facility task force activities and approval to send a letter to invite the California High-Speed Rail Authority to host a meeting in Madera County.
the team.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Letty Gonzalez with Supervisor Max Rodriguez's office.
I'm Melissa De Silva with Supervisor Frazier's office.
Yay, what?
For both of them.
We're here to provide an update on the high-speed rail heavy maintenance facility task force. We took direction from your board to establish this committee. The high-speed rail heavy maintenance facility task force was formed to advocate for Madera County location for the California's high-speed rail authority's job-creating heavy maintenance facility. And so basically we're here to report what we've been doing to promote our site.
Cheaper, faster, smarter. It was a fitting name to name ourselves Y Madera County because we are home to the Y. We represent the backbone of the project, and we have the most track miles of any county in the initial operating segment.
Y Madera County is composed of different elected officials. We have members from the Madera City Council, the Chowchilla City Council, Madera Transportation Commission, and just recently the Madera Unified School District adopted the resolution that your board approved back in October of 2015.
We meet at 7:30 on Friday mornings. It's open if anybody wants to join us. If you see us in the main fishbowl, you know what we're doing now.
And on rare occasions, Supervisor Frazier brings in. We're also, the task force is also advocating for the authority to consider alternative sites that are within the right-of-way. And again, it's to present faster, smarter, more cost-effective alternatives.
You're looking on the slide of a picture of the viaduct. It started in Madera, and that's for a reason. Cheaper. The year of the taxpayer. You missed it. No comment. Willing single landowner sites. We have environmental clearances. We are adjacent to the high-speed rail right-of-way, and we have long-term cost savings due to operational efficiency and proximity to the Y.
Faster, in line with what Melissa just said, we also have a shovel-ready site. We have parcels that are single-owner owned, and we are connected to the necessary infrastructure.
Smarter. Our location is approximately 127 miles from San Jose and 130 miles from Bakersfield. We have training offered in high school coursework, which you'll see, thank you, Letty, the next slide. And we have regionally skilled workforce that are easily accessible to Madera County from outlining communities, Fresno, Merced, so forth.
And I think that's one of the selling points that Madera County offers is that we are so we're a regional site, so we actually benefit the labor markets in Fresno, Merced, Stanislaus, Mariposa counties. That's something that our competitors don't have. Oh, and then this is some of the progress.
So you're looking at a material or branding that we developed through the task force. You see our tagline, cheaper, faster, smarter. We have made our presence at authority meetings and pleaded our case to the authority. And if you see on the slide, you'll see Supervisor Frazier there in the right-hand corner speaking.
That was Fabio. That was like a male model.
Fabio?
Talking.
Oh, yes, perhaps. No, I think it's you. Look closely. So we definitely have made our presence with the authority.
In addition, we've also remained engaged with our stakeholders. Here you have a photo of the members of the Madera City Council meeting with Jeff Morales, the CEO of High Speed Rail, at the construction site where the Fresno Viaduct is being constructed. And then we have a lot of momentum going right now, so we're meeting with different community groups, local, anyone who wants to meet with us and talk with us. We have a lot of momentum going, and we're building these coalitions.
Progress. The task force has issued press releases, op-eds, and held press conferences. You'll see an actual shot of one that was in the Fresno Bee last week by the superintendent of schools at Gonzales. And then the next slide, you see Max in front of when we did the press conference out at the Amtrak station to announce that there will be a stop of high-speed rail in conjunction with Amtrak, which is a huge plus for Madera County. It's very, very much a feather in our cap.
Also, we are preparing to launch our website. This should be going live within the next couple days or so. We're putting some final touches on the website, and so it kind of explains who we are, what we're doing, the goal, again, to attain the maintenance rate here in Madera. And then we are also getting ready to launch a social media campaign. You can like us on Facebook, share a code.
And lastly, but certainly one of the most important pieces of this puzzle is with the assistance of the City of Madera, the task force has created a video that tells our story. The video is in the final production stage, and we will promise to bring it back to your board so you can take a look at it, and you'll be very, very pleased with the outcome of this. And we hope that you will take it forward and perhaps present it at groups here in Madera County, Chamber of Commerce, perhaps, Kiwanis, Rotary, whichever.
The rough cut is already amazing. I don't know how he can finish it any better, but there's still some other people that want to be involved with it now. Once this took off, people just started wanting to be involved with the group.
So next steps, we will continue to rally support.
No. We can get the video later.
I'll show you the rough cut later. It's not final yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we will continue to rally support both at the local, state, and federal level. And we think it's important. The task force thinks that we should invite the High-Speed Rail Authority to host a meeting here in Madera. Not only is that fair, but we think it's prudent for your constituents to address the authority. The authority has hosted meetings in Fresno, Kern, Los Angeles, and Sacramento, so we think it's very important for them to come to Madera. And that's what there's a letter attached to the backup on this item requesting that the authority.
Yeah, we're trying to demand open government.
So why Madera? Cheaper, faster, smarter. Please join us. Thank you. Any questions?
It just amazes me what you guys have done in the short. I know you guys are so dedicated because sometimes you even beat me in to your fishbowl up there. And, I'm still, as far as taxes and stuff like that, against the high-speed rail. I always been, and Max knows that. But I applaud you for trying to do Brett and some of the city council members here in Madera and Max to try to bring up and try to put us on the scale if this all happens. I really, really applaud you, and I'd love to see that Siemens. I'd love to go up there and see that Siemens factory. I love factories. But again, our competition, which is Fresno and Kern or whatever, they're out there doing the same thing. So if we let up 1 second, and I know you guys won't, they'll get it. I mean, it's tough. Fresno's done everything California has asked them to do as far as the high-speed rail. They're building on both sides. I really think if Swearingen, Swearingen had a lot of issues and stuff like that through the years. But if I was her, I would brag on the point that she got the High-Speed Rail Commission to clean up downtown Fresno. I would really be bragging on that. And she probably will after she gets out of election. But to me, smart move.
Even if it doesn't even go anyplace, they got a nice new freeway down the middle of Fresno, which was needed because you couldn't put 3 lanes in. Now you'll have 3 lanes all the way through, bigger, 4 lanes actually. You can see the tracks going in on both sides in Jensen and on the San Joaquin River. We put our, over here by 145. It's starting to look interesting. I wish they'd put a ramp so people can walk across it. But anyway, I applaud you guys for that. A team that's put this together. Thank you. Okay. Nope. I was looking at myself here. Sorry. Max?
This staff here, they did a great job, a wonderful job, with help also from Joseph from the city. We put a video together, and it hasn't been complete yet. But anyway, I've been supporting the high-speed rail for years since its conception, and the majority of the people in Madera were against the high-speed rail. And I wasn't getting the support that I should originally. Later on, I changed the approach that I was having, and I said, if it gets built, if it doesn't get built, okay. But if it gets built, let's get something for Madera County. With that new approach, we've got the city of Chowchilla, the city of Madera, and the county, Board of Education, and hopefully all of you out there. Let's get something for Madera County. These are jobs. We went to the plant that's going to, if they're awarded the contract, Siemens in Sacramento, they have a beautiful plant, and they're ready to start building those cars in case they award the contract. What I say is, we've got to go forward. If we want to improve Madera County, we're fighting Fresno County, which is very political, very powerful. They have a lot of connections. But I think we have a better situation here in Madera because it all depends on the money available to spend on this high-speed rail. We have the property already, one owner, ready to negotiate, infrastructure. We have all that available. Folks, we're sitting right there where we could get this project. And I'll tell you, if we get this project, it'll change. I keep saying this over and over again, and I know it's boring. You will not recognize Madera in 15 or 20 years. For all the young people will still be around, the rest of us, wow. Brett? Hopefully we will. So anyway, what I say is support us, please. Support us. You guys are out there. You're all business people. You're interested in a better community. This is it. This is one of them. Thank you.
Thank you. We did. We went up in a bipartisan effort, and Max pro high-speed rail, and I'm on the fence. But if it does come through, how do we benefit the county of Madera, city of Madera, city of Chowchilla? But one other part that we started looking at from this perspective, and the fact that Kern County is still in it and Fresno County is still in it, that competition breeds a better project. That makes us work harder to try and figure out how do we do this better. And from that, we started looking at it. What's in it for the high-speed rail authority to come and put it here if it goes through? And we had to figure out how do we make it cheaper for them. And so when we were talking about that idea and making it cheaper for the high-speed rail authority, and what it came out in one of our meetings was, we're not making it cheaper for the high-speed rail authority to build. We're making it cheaper for the taxpayers of Madera County, for the taxpayers of the state of California, and since there's going to be federal funds in it, possibly, taxpayers all throughout the country. And so if we want it to be a lot of people say, I voted for it originally, but now the costs have gotten out of hand. But they're also the same people that have sued the high-speed rail and caused the cost to go up. We're trying to look at, okay, as stewards of everybody's taxpayer dollars, how do we make those costs go down? What is our small part that we can help to make this project just a little bit more, even if we can get it down $1 billion,
bring the private sector into it,
like Florida has done. We've got it.
And actually at the plant yesterday, we saw the Florida cars being built in California to be shipped to Florida. It's amazing to see a train car and a locomotive being put together, and it's these craftsmen are in there building these things by hand. They seem so massive that it would have to be a machine, but it's men and women with welders and large equipment to put it all together. But I mean, it was just fascinating, and there is going to, it needs to have, like Rick, like you said, it needs to have that private sector. And they were talking about the things that this private sector company was going to do in their cars. He says they can't talk about them, but they would blow your mind. And it will bring people back onto trains and as a preferred method of travel. And so it's one of those things, I think when we were not engaging in this process, we wouldn't have gotten that stop in Madera County. We would have been bypassed. We wouldn't have been able to say that's the only place that you intersect with Amtrak, and we wouldn't have had anything. If we weren't engaged in this process, we couldn't set up meetings for business owners like Steel Structures to try and get them back to the table to negotiate with high-speed rail. We wouldn't be able to help farmers that are getting their land taken so that we can help in that process. And I think by disengaging from the process and just saying, go away, high-speed rail, all it does is leave our residents at a stark disadvantage. They're out there naked, and that's, in my opinion, is dereliction of our duties to not be there to provide that conduit by which to help our residents with the high-speed rail authority. And we need to figure out how do we make it the best for us. And I'll tell you what, our sites, I'll take the Pepsi challenge, as Norm would say, against any of those other sites any day of the week. We had high-level people in Sacramento saying, you guys have a stark advantage, competitive advantage over everybody else's. And like I always say, the original engineer's estimate was you should put the heavy maintenance facility as close to south of the Y as possible. And I tell this up in Sacramento, I say it's supposed to be as close to south of the Y as possible, not as close to south of the Y as is politically expedient. So we're working hard, and I think there's starting to be some buzz. It's been funny as we're moving up, the offices get nicer every time we go and see somebody now. So it's exciting. I think we've got a good team, a 1-2 punch, the Democrat, the Republican here, and we're going bipartisan support. Tom?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that preaching job, buddy. Good job. Max, too. I was totally against that. I was chairman when I first came here. We had this whole room full of people, probably 90% against it. But once the state decided they were going to do it and started putting out contracts, my team, they were probably like you guys all know, they said, hey, Wheeler, get off your sandbag. You're done. Now we got to look for what's the best thing for Madera County. And what both of these guys have said, that's what we're doing. This is a big, big thing for Madera County, whether we like it or not. I don't care for it. You remember, I even told them to move it out here to Highway 5, the whole thing. And but anyway, it's moving forward. And when he was saying we got the ideal spot, somebody said, you girls said something about the Fresno site. They haven't even got that site secured, and there's, 12, 20 parcels?
17.
17.
And also, our site is, one of our sites is closer to the Fresno workforce than Fresno site is.
Yeah,
you would have to drive farther to get the Fresno site than to get the Madera site.
So Fresno might have all that big pool and everything else, but we have got the surrounding area to make it the best. So I thank you guys all for doing all that work, Norm, staff, and Max, and Brett, the girls. Thank you so much. Because
we need people like Dale there to support us, to help us. He carries a lot of weight in that community over there. So let's get the best deal from Madera County, Dale. Join us, please.
high-speed rail is a white elephant. It will never do what they said it was going to do. It'll always need subsidies. It'll come in way, way, way over budget. What we were presented as voters was a lie. I've been against it from the beginning. All I can say is it's our tax dollars filling that big trough. You're doing a good job of trying to get our section of it so we can get a little bit of it back. If we're going to put billions of dollars into that trough, let's try and get some of it back into Madera County.
Exactly. Bill, Madera County, I don't know what I'm going to say. It has much to do with what you guys are talking about. They're trying to, I live out on Avenue 17, and they're wanting to buy an acre of my property. And that's not the big issue with them. I also got a letter from them saying they want to come onto my property to look for contaminated soil, contaminated water, and if they find it, it'll be up to me to clean it up. So that makes it look like that they're going to condemn my property and get it for nothing. That's what you think is going to happen. But I'm just saying that, and so far, I haven't given permission to come on, but I'm assuming they can go to court and get permission. I know they can do that. But anyway, that's where I'm at with them. And the assessor came out, and he told me he would get back to me in 30 days, and it's been quite a bit longer than 30 days. And I finally run into them again, and they said, well, no, it'll probably be 6 months before we get back to you. So I don't know what the problem. I seen in the paper that they're asking the state for $300 million. I'm assuming they may be out of money, so I guess if they send me a assessment and tell them my property's worth so much, they'd have to have the money to pay me if I wanted to take it. I don't know how that would work, but
they'll just post-date the check.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my problem with them, and I'm thinking about, I don't know, just selling my whole thing and moving out of there before it all comes to pass. And I'm thinking about listing my property. And
come on up North Fork.
Pardon?
Come up North Fork. We got a great place for you.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know where I can move from there. Anyway, that's my problem with them. And another thing I'd like to say about the high-speed rail, they're all saying it's going to make money. According to Amtrak, I read in the paper, Amtrak lost $2 billion last year. And where does that come from, that loss? The taxpayers picked it up, of course. And if they lost $2 billion, they said most of it's on the West Coast, that $2 billion they lost. So this Amtrak, or this high-speed rail, is going to be another money loser because people I don't think, going to ride it. And it's the same way with Amtrak. It's going to be a losing proposition. It's going to be another thing. They're going to make money now. People are going to work and build it and all that. And again, where's that money coming from? They said it's supposed to be from private people, but I don't know anybody that would be dumb enough to invest in something that's going to lose money, but maybe there's some people out there that will.
Chairman, members of the board, always good to hear from Bill. I spoke to him in the back of the room earlier. I actually know exactly where he's talking about. It's where it's up, where they're going to do it, Avenue 17. And so I let Bill know that I'll go to the authority with him and work with him and make sure everything's straight. As you know, it's been a little challenging for me over the years. I was the bad cop on the project, and now I'm supposed to be the good cop, and so it's a little schizophrenic for me. But I will say that this group, a lot of us in the past, when they did land acquisition, and a lot of you remember, we got a lot of phone calls with people crying and upset. This time, their land acquisition has gone much smoother just by the amount of phone calls and complaints we've got. So improving the relationship is good. It's always good for me to go from a position of adversary to friend, but definitely is a learning experience. So I want to thank that, but I will definitely work with Bill and the authority to make sure his issues are being addressed. Yes, sir.
While you're up there, Norm, I'd like to also I'd like to also advocate for Riley Brewing. They have had considerable issues. They also operate steel structures, and the issue there is being able to transport their structures out of their facility with adequate room. Some of the truck trailer situations are 150 foot long, and I just don't see any resolution to that at this point. There's an adversarial role there. Maybe we can engage on his behalf.
I'll
come up with an amicable solution. I would love to see that.
I'll reach out. I know some of the other supervisors have done some work there. I just happen to run into Dan at a breakfast one day, and we sat next to each other and listened, and I've known him for quite a little bit. So I'll be happy to reach out to the authority and make sure I got a good understanding of what's going on there.
We don't want to trade jobs. We want
I agree.
We want him to stay in business and do what he's doing because he's building more business, and at the same time,
yes, and he makes a fine product. Yes, sir.
Also, on the Amtrak losses, I just wanted to point out, last year it was $306 million. The year before was $230. A lot of that was attributed to, and now it's nationwide, a lot of that was attributed to the Philadelphia train crash, where they had $164 million loss. And then the Northeast and then the Western, we have 3 of the top 5 corridors in the country with the top one is the Los San, which goes from Los Angeles to San Diego, which is also called the Pacific Surfliner. The second is, and that's only behind the Northeast corridor that goes to D.C. to New York. Then there's the Capital Corridor, which goes from Sacramento to San Francisco. And then the San Joaquin's, which we took over as a JPA. It's no longer in Caltrans' hands, so hopefully we'll run it a lot leaner than Caltrans would. I'm sure there was a little bit of bureaucracy in that somewhere. But and those create surpluses. The San Joaquin's doesn't create a surplus right now, but there will be most of the operational losses are due to the long hauls that go across the country. But the regional corridors actually make money.
Right.
So that's
the Capital one's one of the highest producing dollars in all of them.
Yeah.
Thank you, girls.
Oh no! So the question was whether or not we invite the authority to have a meeting here. I think that would be good, just for our citizens to come and say yes, no. I move.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli? Vote passes 5-0.
That doesn't mean they're coming. We're just asking.
6G, County Administration Department, Enhanced Infrastructure Financing Districts. 1, discussion and consideration of entering into an agreement with David Tosick and Associates, Inc. for our consulting services to establish enhanced infrastructure financing districts. 2, discussion and consideration of approval of transfer appropriations number 16-110 in the amount of $27,000 from appropriation for contingency to special payments, professional and specialized services. 4 votes required.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Eric Fleming, County Administrator. This item comes back to you after the last meeting. We're recommending hiring a expert consultant to help us set up our first enhanced infrastructure financing districts. This person, the firm David Tosick and Associates, has a good deal of experience in doing these sorts of districts, financing mechanisms. One of the things we have asked him to include in his scope, and he's not increased his price, is 2 additional areas to create these enhanced infrastructure financing districts, and those are in industrial areas off of Avenue 12 and Avenue 7. Other than that, the scope of work and cost is the same. I'm available if you have any questions.
How much I like these and what they can do. The original intent is these are things that can be done where development money wouldn't be available, right? This is the things that where private industry wouldn't do that we can do to bring in economic development, correct?
That is correct, Supervisor Frazier. It is a pretty broad list, but I think I would recommend that your board, you're going to have to approve every single request for bonding within these districts when it's proposed. And I would suggest that you really scrutinize some of the requests and make sure that maybe they're not projects that would typically be financed by development, but maybe projects that are such as our sports complex, proposed sports complex, or things like that are going to increase economic development, maybe in ways which we couldn't normally do that.
Right, and bring up the other areas that are around that maybe would be left behind otherwise.
That's correct.
Basically, we talked about the sports complex before, and we talked about it putting in other places and different areas. One of the ones is out by the casino. So if we vote on this and we decide to put it on the casino property, the people at the ranch, or not the ranches, but Riverstone and Viejo will be paying for the sports complex.
Chairman Farinelli, now to clarify, these are three well-defined areas. I was just saying that hypothetically any one of these areas could be used to finance the sports complex if it penciled out. But if your board ultimately makes a decision to develop that complex closer to the city of Madera, it would become more complex because chances are you'd be dealing with a lot more property owners and different jurisdictions. So we really need to take a close look at the best way to finance it.
I agree with you looking at that area because one of we keep on talking about making it the third city of Madera County, and I think that would just enhance that. But, I have a problem because I really feel, and I live in the city of Madera, and I really feel the city of Madera will go down if we cannot move north. And I hope the casino comes in and helps that situation. I hope 17 starts building. I hope we can have an El Paseo maybe sometime out there at 17. But I tell you, again, I think this is going to be the third city of Madera, and I'm very proud of being part of that. So.
Just so your board is clear and the public is clear, no decision's been made, no direction has been given on the sports complex other than looking at two basic areas, which is the Rio Mesa area and around the city of Madera. We're going to be soliciting proposals from developers, which then we come to your board with, and depending on what's proposed by the developers and what they're bringing to the table, I think that'll drive your decision whether or not to move forward and where to put it.
This can be used for that, but this item is not about the solutions. Yeah,
I just wanted to make that.
And I appreciate that too.
Chairman, just to clarify, no decisions have been made there. Your board hasn't issued that direction. This is your county planner, this is a planning exercise. It's a fiscal planning exercise to look at the possibility of using a new way of tax increment financing, right? When projects come online, there's an increment that goes to the general fund. That's our dollars. We control those dollars, and we have discretion. By we, I mean the board. And so the discretion to use those to reinvest in a specific area is not a new concept, but it's a different tool that we're using in a different way. So for those who are wondering why these areas are not, this is a planning project. This is a study that's being done, and we'll have to be back here to make sure that you sign off on the analysis, but also any infrastructure that gets put together, like the CAO said, you'll have to approve as well. No, but I agree totally this is a great.
When it's funded, right, and you take the bonds from the tax increment within the designated boundary lines, you can't move that tax increment financing outside of those boundary lines.
It's restricted, yes.
It's restricted. So
protected in those boundaries. Yes. And we'll have that explanation. It's a very good point. Those kinds of explanations of, that everything right now sounds like it's wonderful until we dive off into it and find out there's always some issue we didn't know about. So those are good details we'll bring back later.
So if you wanted to do it around the northern portion, we'd have to draw another boundary up around there. And there's tons of boundaries you can do up in eastern Madera County to use those things.
Would you use like a committee to work on this, to draw those, distinguish those areas? Or
we would be that committee. This board would be the final say. Obviously, with all the different staff that should be that are going to be touching this, there should be a steering committee so they understand what's going on and how to issue those bonds and everything like that. I think
would be a financing district.
Yeah, it's basically it's a financing district.
Okay, so would it be a 218 vote for that district if they do it?
I believe, and that's why we're hiring an expert, and that's the recommendation today.
Go through all this and give us ideas?
Yes, sir. But yes, early on there's fewer voters. So.
Anything from the public? Dale Rosen, Madera County. Can this be morphed into financing subdivisions?
That ain't going to happen.
Well, no. Let me finish. In some parts of Fresno County, the developers are financing the infrastructure, the sewer system, the roads. All of the development fees are being financed. They are the one owner, so it doesn't take a vote of anybody.
Right.
They put a bond against all of the parcels of the houses. Now they can market that house at $15,000 to $20,000 less than my house because it's financed. And then the people find out in escrow that they've got $20,000 that they have to pay back on their tax rolls.
So this would be the increment. This would be the portion of what would come into the county in terms of, so if the bare land is worth $50,000 and then with, 3 homes on it, it's now worth $2 million, we can bond it between that. And so we would be the ones paying back on the bond, not the homeowner.
If you just shrink it down to a smaller instead of a subdivision, if I want to build a house, and you tell me I've got $20,000 in development fees. I say, I don't want to pay it. Write a bond, put it on the tax rolls, and when I build this house and sell it to Tom, he'll be paying $20,000 less for it, but he's going to be paying those development fees along with his tax dollars.
This wouldn't be that, no.
Okay.
And what you're talking about is now
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And this is increment financing. So this is the county saying instead of us taking the increment tax dollars over the next 30 years, instead we'll bond against that, put it in infrastructure that wouldn't be brought in otherwise, or can help other areas, and then it's secured by our property tax that we're going to be getting in those 30 years.
How about the auditor? Should they be involved with this?
You want to add anything? Ready.
Supervisor Willard.
I was going to say item 6E is actually what Mr. Drozen's talking about. That's a mellow ruse, and that's actually a part of item 6E. So Supervisor Frazier was correct in explaining it, but that's coming up later. Yeah.
Just to answer Supervisor Willard's question, yes, we'll have an internal group that'll be, my office, Norm's office, treasurer, tax collector, auditor, controller, and assessor.
So they'll all be part of that committee.
Everybody will be involved.
I think it's important. We don't want to get one of these stupid things again that we get stuck with down the road, like Dale says.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Mac.
Folks, we have a prime example of that. I just attended a meeting, 2.5 weeks ago. KB Homes over there by the sheriff department with those big homes. Well, here's what happened. The people bought into those. Those are root projects there. And the bad part about it, if the people don't know the concept and exactly what Dale said, you either pay it up front on the value on the price of the home, or you put it on installments, yearly installments. And there, I think it's run from $20,000 to $30,000. Land improvement, they're paying it. A lot of the people didn't know what they were getting into. They signed the contracts, and now they're to the point of rebelling over there in that area because they didn't know what they were signing into. So we have to be very careful, and the companies have to be very specific of what the contract says to the people that are buying those homes there. Of course, those projects that Tim and Bob has over there, I'm pretty sure they're going to do it correctly. But on this other project, they did not do it correctly, and the people are up in arms because they don't know what they got into it, and some of them can't afford it. Well, the City of Madera had one owner. They went to the city with agreement, and it's supposed to be an agenda to discuss it sometime in the future. Yeah, so we have to be very careful there. And Tim will explain it right now.
Mike on. Suite 310, Fresno, California. And I commend you at considering this process for a mechanism of financing certain things. What I would suggest is, since I'm a big part of CSA 22, I'd like to be on whatever committee you put together that that has the communications regarding how this gets put together. Having gone through the process of where we're at in our development, I have extensive experience in how these things come together. And I would just ask that we be allowed to participate on that committee.
Yeah, you could be part of that bill, that 30-something thousand. 27,000, you'd be part of that financing part of it.
You're creating all the increments. Well, that's exactly right.
A little bit
what's happening is our development by building the houses is going to raise the tax dollars on that 1% of the county share, and what's going to happen with those dollars. I want to make sure, obviously, that it benefits the
You have a vested interest in making sure that it works.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's good for the county and good for everybody in CSA 22. So I'd like to be part of it. Thank you.
I make a motion we approve item 6G 1 and 2.
Second. I have a first from Tom, second from Brett. Call for the vote.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes again.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Hey, no. Yes. Howard, it's all right here.
Vote passes 5-0.
Real quick, gentlemen, we got 3 more. Do you want to
Nope,
go ahead?
Rick, I got my 2 beautiful daughters here for taking me to lunch for my birthday, and I'm going to go with them.
Your birthday?
It was past a couple weeks ago. They just finally caught up with me.
How many birthdays
I've
do you
been
have in a year?
busy.
Okay, well, we'll
I had a
have
lot.
to be gentle.
I'm getting old.
We'll have to adjourn until after the 1:30 meeting.
Yes, that's right.
Just to let everybody know. So I'm sorry.
1:30 then.
Okay, we will be back in here at 1:30. Thank you. Say that highly. In-home support services public authority agenda for the regular meeting in the in-home support service public authority Tuesday, August 23rd, 2016 at 1:30. Please read. Is there anything you're supposed to read in?
No, we go to the consent calendar first.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I move to approve.
Second.
Have a vote. Did you get
Call for the vote. Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Only one vote this time? What did we do now? What the heck? What did I do wrong at lunch? Okay. B.
Additions to the agenda. I'm not aware of any additions to the agenda. C, public comment. The first 15 minutes of each regular meeting is set aside for members of the public to comment on any item within the jurisdiction of the board, but not appearing on the agenda. Items presented under public comment may not be discussed or acted upon by the board at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public is invited to comment at the time the item is called for consideration by the board. Any person addressing the board under public comment will be limited to a 3-minute presentation to ensure that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak. Also, all persons addressing the board must state their name and county of residence for the record.
Okay, anything from the board? Anything from the public? I'd like to say one thing, and I know this isn't evidence public. I really want to thank IT and Rhonda for working on the speaker system. This week I can actually hear what we're saying. Thank you so much. Okay. Go ahead. Anybody from the public? Bring it back to the board. Okay, closed session. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Back in session. County Council, anything to read?
Chairman, members of the board, there are no reportable actions from closed session.
Thank you. This part of the meeting is adjourned, and we will go back to the regular agenda. And we will start with
the big D, like in dog, or like in Dale. Dale Drozian, that is.
Okay, 6D.
6D, Community and Economic Development Planning Division. Discussion and consideration of approval of receipt of unanticipated revenue, number 16-111, in the amount of $1,500,000 derived from the Department of Housing and Community Development Block Grant to CED Planning, Professional and Specialized Services for reimbursement activities by the Public Works Department for street improvements. 4 votes required.
Chairman, members of the board, Norman Allender, Planning Director, here with Robert Mansfield and Mr. Trieber. What's before you today, and Ahmad from Public Works, is the budgeting of the dollars to do the street work from CDBG. This has been awarded, and this is just actually the budgeting of the money to get the reimbursement. So working with the auditor's office has been...
It was.
Good to see you guys. Good to see you guys. So, at any rate, this is really a good process we've worked out with the auditor, by which we've solved that issue of how do you cash flow projects, budget them the right way. It is so very simply, this is budgeting for the grant money that's been received for the Parkwood Street project. This is part of the ACAL report. That's the report we worked on with the city about upgrading different infrastructure areas. So it's a pretty simple matter of budgeting the numbers. Robert, do you have anything else?
Not at this time, no. Silence is golden. Anything from the board? Anything from the public? Bring it back to the board.
From your district, Mac. You need district, they nail it, buddy.
Well, you don't want to approve it, Mac? I want to approve it.
I second it.
Okay. We got Brett first, Tom second.
Oh, I thought you
didn't say anything.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
6E.
6E, County Administration Department. Discussion and consideration of entering into an agreement with Feldman, Rowlap & Associates for financial advisory services related to the formation of a community facilities district for the DeSorjo Vejo development.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Kevin Freeze with the Administrative Office. We're getting back to the Melrose that you had discussion on this morning, and this is the actual Melrose item. Exactly what Rhonda had mentioned. This is a financial advisory contract related to the CFD with DeSorjo Viejo. This contract will be financed through the development, and it has no impact on the general fund. I'll be happy to answer any question. We actually have a kickoff meeting, I think, this Thursday with just sort of the people and get that process started. Any questions?
Very good. Any questions from the board? Any questions from the board? I think the important part is just to make sure that when these are put in, that there's the proper notification at the time of escrow. We don't want to. That's the important part that wasn't done at KB. Was there was
have the full disclosure.
People were not educated on it, and there was not the full disclosure. So we want to make sure that those things are done. Absolutely. With that, I'll move to approve.
Second.
Well, we have to go to the public first. Anything from the public? Back to the board. Got a first from Brett, second from Tom.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
6F.
6F, County Administration Department, Fire Department Equipment Replacement. 1, discussion and direction to staff to determine funding sources and return to the board with the necessary budget adjustments to purchase 2 water tenders to be assigned at Station 19 Bonadelli and Station 12 Oakhurst. 2, discussion and direction to staff to develop a fire equipment replacement policy and return to the board for policy adoption.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Eric Fleming, County Administrator. One of the things that's recently come to our attention is that we had an immediate need for a couple of water tenders, and that coupled with some feedback that we've been getting when we've been doing our educational sessions on the proposed public safety tax was that we really needed to get on a schedule to replace equipment every year, fire equipment. So what we're looking at is we've come up with, we would like to seek your direction to come up with a funding mechanism to buy 2 new water tenders as quickly as possible. That would be paid for by a combination of fundraising, donations, and developer contribution, development impact fees, and fees that we get for renting out our equipment to other agencies. We'd also like to come back with a plan to replace 1 piece of equipment every year. Hopefully we can find a way to finance that. We're thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of about $500,000 a year if we can figure out a way to set that aside to start replacing some of the older engines in our fleet. And Matt Watson with the fire department is here. He may have more to add to that, or he can answer questions for sure.
Yeah, as always, Matt Watson, the fire department, Madera County Fire Administration. So most of you are aware, all of you are aware that we have an aging fire fleet. We have frontline engines that are 29 years old. Frontline engines should be in service for 10 years, and an additional 10 years as reserve. So we've tripled that capacity. Setting up this fund will be the first step in getting our equipment up to compliance. So if we replace 1 a year, we have 17 frontline engines. It would take 17 years to just replace the engines. We also have 9 water tenders. Our oldest water tender is over 30 years old, and these 2 water tenders specifically, they would be a tactical water tender, steering axle, one drive axle in the rear, 2,000 gallons. It looks similar to a fire engine, automatic transmission, which opens up the driving pool for the paid call firefighters and gives us the ability to cross-staff it so we can actually get water at scene. I mean, a couple of the biggest problems we're having is on-site water, and that also is a big factor into the ISO rating, get your flows going, and then the PCF. So, I mean, this is one piece of the puzzle we're trying to work on. This get us 2 water tenders at 2 of our most active companies, and we can also cross-staff it with career staff.
Brett? I think we actually have not an aging. It's pretty much timed out on most of our equipment, and this is what we need to do as this board that looks forward and sees it's not going to get any better every single year. We need to look at how do we create a funding stream to be able to ongoing pay for replacing this equipment so that, especially this water tender, there was a house that burned down a block away from Station 19, and the only reason it burned down was no one could drive the water tender a block and a half away. This is a big need. This helps all over the county to be able to get these to go everywhere, correct?
Well, and that's what's centralizing these. One of Madera Rancho is what we'd look at, and the other one at Oakhurst, just as kind of a central hub from one for the mountain communities and one for the valley communities to be able to get the water on site.
And the Ranchos, the Station 19 volunteers every year have the barbecue, have raised over $40,000 to go towards this. I mean, they're pot committed. That's a big chunk, and I think it's high time that the county puts in and starts investing in this too. Especially if we're going to ask the people to vote on a public safety sales tax. We have to show that we're not just taking, that this is an important thing for us to focus on as well, and we're going to put our general fund dollars towards it as well, so that if we're asking the residents to pay more in sales tax, we need to show that we're committed to it as well.
Yeah, thank you. Ditto what Brett said. Last time we bought fire trucks was in '07. We bought 6 of them. So they're 10 years old already. So they should be retired to the volunteers and should have had 10 new ones already. But we didn't have the money even to hardly make the county work. But we are a little bit better off now. And we started on our committee, which Brett and I are both on. One of the things we said that right off the bat, we go out to the public for a safety tax, that we also got to commit the board to have a replacement program. I mean, we do it in all of our other vehicles, but we don't do it on this one. We got mileage on there. They get a certain mileage, we replace them. This is the same thing we got to do on these. If it's yearly, that's fine. But we've got to do it. This is something that public safety is first before those other crazy cars. So.
Yeah, instead of buying 6 in 1 year and having a huge hit, if you have an ongoing equipment replacement, and that's just what we do it in other areas.
Yeah, everything else we do. Yeah. But we don't do it on this. It's one of the most important safety things we have.
Just like our mic system.
Yeah. It's coming.
Working great there. Anybody else from the board? Hey, Matt, I have a question. When I first started, I took a tour out to CDF, and you guys have an outstanding maintenance department out there. Are we still rebuilding trucks and doing what we were doing before? I mean, bringing them back to life and buying
Yeah, I mean, one of your county mechanics is Ryan Knoll, and he's a master mechanic, master fabricator, and he just does an outstanding job. But, I mean, we're refurbishing engines that are 34 years old.
Yeah.
I mean,
so you get past the parts department.
Yeah,
so we do because we have such a good maintenance program.
A lot of the equipment is Ryan's either having to go to a junkyard to seek out a part, or he's having to mill and fabricate a part to
I
make
just
it
want
work.
people to know that.
So I mean,
it was very interesting. I give them credit. I mean, I couldn't believe that you couldn't tell the difference between the new one and an old one after they finished, working on it. It was just outstanding. So,
a heck of a crew out there.
Thanks, Matt. Anything from the public?
Dale Grossen, Madera. The 6 fire engines that were purchased, just for information, the money was borrowed from the fire mitigation fund, and it was paid back 1 fire engine a year. It wasn't a big hit that fund. It was not. I was curious as to where water tender 15 and water tender 13 are.
Matt, you looked at us as
Under
GPS
recall. Let's do some recall. So, water tender 15 is currently located at Station 3. And I'm not sure on the specifics, but there is a water tender at 3. And water tender 13 has been relocated to Station 8 with the closure of 13. So that's a 2,000-gallon water tender that we did some flip-flop with Chowchilla to get Chowchilla an automatic water tender that's 34 years old, so we had more drivers for that. It was burned up. That's a city.
Yeah. Water tender 15, one of the things mentioned for financing these two, water tender 15 was purchased with 100% mitigation fund. It was to be a water tender added to the fleet. What wound up happening is water tender 3 was rolled, and it became a replacement for that. So the mitigation fund needs to be paid back out of the general fund for that, which we're going to to do this purpose. And as far as rebuilding the fire engine over and over and over again, the way they rock and roll out through there on fires and through ditches, frames break, there's cracks, there's all kinds of problems.
We still need to keep that same maintenance program in place.
You just can't fix it.
I just want to give them credit because they do an outstanding job out there.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do.
Okay, how many pounds?
Anybody else from the public?
2,000, what's that?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Bill Ritchie, citizen advocate from Raymond, California. A couple of comments I'd like to make regarding the water tenders. I believe this is a positive first step in the right direction towards increasing the availability of water at fires which occur in the county. This has been a recurring problem for several years, that there are fires that take place, and not just at the area where Supervisor Frazier was talking about near Station 19, but in other areas because of the special license required. Oftentimes the volunteers that are available can't bring the water tender to the scene. We need to find a way where we can reliably get 4,000 gallons of water to a fire in the very early onset of the fire. You know, they need to be able to pump about 250 gallons a minute reliably for 20 minutes to get some people down from ISOs of 10 to 8 to 8B. And right now, that doesn't frequently happen. This is a very good effort and movement to take. I think it's going to require ultimately about another 6 to 8 water tenders for the period of the next few years, but it's a step in the right direction. I encourage your affirmative decision of that. In regards to the fire equipment replacement program, Chief Watson was describing how so much of the fleet is nearing beyond obsolete in its life expectancy. One thing I'd like the board to consider, that in recent years the cost of fire apparatus has been appreciating and inflating at a cost higher than inflation and at a cost higher than finance rates. But to make a dent in the age and lowering the age of the equipment, being able to obtain a multi-engine discount and also alleviating some of the maintenance requirements on the shop, I would encourage one option to view is a purchase of maybe 5 engines at one time for 5 years, and you may end up saving more dollars than trying to allocate the money for an inflated cost every year, and also we'll always be playing catch-up.
So you're talking about like finance.
The return for an actual policy?
So at least right now, while we're so far behind, if the cost of the equipment is going up higher than the rate of cost of the financing, I think it really, myself, it's a no-brainer that you look at financing for 5 years and you're going to spend less dollars than you will.
It would save money in the long run.
Yeah. So that's just my thought. Thought I'd share it, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. That's a good idea. I'll tell you, I like that.
Yeah.
No. Yes, you can. That was me. I'm not the chairman.
Water tender drivers. CAL FIRE uses hired water tenders. They have no fire experience, don't need any fire experience. They get in their water tender. Pardon? I can't. So why do we need to have somebody that's going through all of the things that become a paid call firefighter to drive a 4,000-gallon water tender? We can make a separate category of PCFs that do nothing but drive water tenders.
I think before it was there needed to be certain certifications just to drive the actual rig, right?
Well, if they've got a Class 1 license, they can drive it. And if there's a problem with, which has been brought up before, is they see a fire engine with a seal on the side of it. If somebody's in trouble, they want help. All you need is any PCF to ride in the right-hand seat with a hired non-firefighter driver, and you can get the water tenders you've got for fires. But you have to change the requirements. I don't know if it's possible. He might know.
I will look at it and see. That's a great suggestion.
So what Dale's talking about on the state and federal fires is they rent water tenders with drivers. The drivers have to go through a minimal safety course. They have no medical training. I mean, there's no medical training required.
They're just drivers.
They're just a driver.
Okay.
So they're on the line with qualified firefighters, with qualified medical personnel, and they're not emergency response. So our water tenders are in a different classification. They are emergency response. One of the programs we're looking at is doing a driver-operator only, They would have reduced fire training, they would have reduced medical training, but would be able to provide those basic essential needs. Because when that fire engine is driving down the road, the public expects a fire engine, if there's a fire or a medical emergency, going to pull over and mitigate that. And if you just had a driver with no medical training, no firefighter training, they would not be able to mitigate an emergency. They would just have to report it to keep driving. So, I mean, there is some requirements, and we're trying to look at that. There's not many agencies that do it any longer, but that's one of the options we're looking at.
It's kind of like a hybrid.
Yeah, I mean, if they had a second body on there, but I mean, you know, yeah, I mean, we don't have the body to put on there. I mean, that probably wouldn't be an issue. I mean, a solution. But we are looking at water tender drivers only. In the past, we have had medical responders only, but this would be.
So, as we raise, if the safety sales tax goes through and we increase our staffing, that could be more of an option. But right now, because we don't have the bodies, it's not. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, if the safety sales tax was approved by the voters, and there was additional staffing in the fire stations, they would cross-staff pieces of equipment. So if there's 2 on duty at Station 19, Monadeli Ranchos, one would drive the fire engine, one would drive the water tender, and you can get your fire flow.
Okay.
But currently there's 1 person on duty, so they can only drive one thing at a time.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, until we get funding, if we get it, to have some volunteer or even a paid person. That, I mean, there's truck drivers all over, and a lot of retired ones that are still good drivers that we could maybe do that little bit of cross training just so they know they can't do emergency, they can't do firefighting, but they can get that truck there. If there's other fire trucks there that can still use that water. That's the main thing. It's the water tender. There's nothing. It's not the fire truck. It's the water tender.
I'd like to move to approve this. I'd also like to know, I don't know if this is possible, but on the one at 19, is there a way that we can name it or put a badge on it with Donald Chase's name? I'd like to do that. He was the PCF
right.
that
100 years.
Yeah, that drove the water tender. I think it'd be pretty cool if his name was on the Station 19 water tender. So I move that we approve items 6F, 1 and 2 with.
Okay, would you put a direction in there to get staff to look at other options like buying 5 at once and bringing it back to us to see if it's possible?
Yes, that's in my.
You put that in
I'll
there?
put that in my motion.
Okay, I'll second that then.
Yep, this is just discussion and direction, so there's no actual action item.
That's
However,
what I thought. It's just direction, yeah.
yes.
So
you don't
so
need
the
to
board
take a
does
vote.
the board agree to have them look at that and bring it back to us?
Mm-hmm.
Option? I've got a thumbs up. You, Matt?
Yeah.
Thank you. She's right there.
Good afternoon, Board, Chair. Last week, or on August 9th, your last board meeting, you had myself as well as the District Ranger, Denise Tolmie, present a variety of the alternatives that are outlined in the Forest Plan revision process. From your direction that day, you asked that I come back with a letter that represented those discussions. Each of you have that letter. It's about a 2-page letter. Specifically, it outlines being against Alternative A, which is the current plan, as well as Alternative C, which increases the recommended amount of wilderness areas and also limits some of the mechanical treatments that we can do in the forest. And it promotes different components of Alternative B and D, which allow for more prescribed fires, fuel reduction. It also increases the scale and the pace at which this work would be done. So I can read this letter out loud, or what would your board like? Go ahead. Okay. 2 seconds. On August 9th, 2016, the Madera County Board of Supervisors reviewed the draft environmental impact statement for the revisions of the Inyo, Sequoia, and Sierra National Forest land management plans. We heard from both staff and District Ranger Denise Tolmie of the Bass Lake Ranger District. Since 1992, when our last forest plan was adopted, there have been exponential changes in economic, social, and ecological conditions, making the timing of this forest plan revision imperative. We believe that our forests have been neglected and that a number of vital activities need to be employed immediately if we are to save the forest we have left. Our utmost concern is watershed health and viability, meaning that fuel reduction efforts will have to increase drastically. We'd like to see fuel treatment and fire management activities, including low-intensity fire and increased prescribed burning, put on the ground to help restore the landscape. Meeting these fuel reduction goals will further contribute to water availability throughout the entire watershed. Additionally, in lieu of the tree mortality epidemic, we recognize the need for resiliency management and encourage exploring diverse opportunities as it relates to ecological integrity. Our board would like to see a forest plan that reflects characteristics from both Alternative B and Alternative D. We are against Alternative A, the existing plan direction, due to the direct results that we've seen in the last 20 years. We are against Alternative C due to the increased amount of recommended wilderness areas, relying primarily on unplanned wildfire ignitions to manage the landscape instead of intentional fire ignitions, and its limitations on strategic mechanical treatments. Alternative B provides a number of benefits, including but not limited to replacing the wildland-urban intermixed defense zone and threat zone with a risk-based community wildfire protection zone and general wildfire protection zone consistent with the National Cohesive Wildland Fire Management Strategy. Strategically located fuel reduction treatments along roads and ridges are also there to further support public safety and landscape scale prescribed burning. And lastly, it recognizes the priority watersheds as areas to focus on restoration and maintenance efforts. While Alternative B lays the groundwork for a number of challenges and opportunities, Alternative D has a number of specific items that our forests can benefit from. Specifically, Alternative D increases the pace and scale of treatment activities, which helps to reduce forest density and increases forest resiliency to drought while increasing the amount of forest products produced. Additionally, Alternative D allows for flexibility in regards to using equipment near CAL FIRE spotted owl nests and increases areas that can be treated to the fisher habitat. It is clear that Alternative D provides the most opportunity to utilize prescribed burning, especially to maintain areas previously treated, and to manage wildfire to meet resource objectives, ultimately restoring fire as a needed ecological process. Lastly, we would like to encourage the Forest Service to include portions of the appropriate alternatives in order to support and encourage grazing and pollinator activities alike. We'd like to commend the Sierra National Forest for being one of the early adopters in this process and setting the stage for other forests across the country. We applaud your public engagement efforts over the last few years, and we appreciate your time and hope that you'll take our comments into consideration when making these critical decisions that create the forest conditions for future generations to come.
Very good.
You guys will wait?
If anybody else wants to get involved, you got to the 24th, is it?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Tomorrow. I don't know if you can mail these, get them in time, but they'll card you if you want to do anything with them. Dale, you want to write something? Hand you one. Thumbs up?
Yep.
Okay, on that same subject, you guys, I don't know if you've seen on Sunday's paper, this Miss Wolf, I met her 4 times up there in the last 3 years wanting to do that monument from Sequoia to Yosemite. If they do that, you kiss this plan goodbye. That's the first thing you do, just about. And this, you got to read some of this stuff they put in it. It is so ridiculous. I couldn't hardly sleep last night because I was stupid enough to read that last night before I went to bed. And yeah, they're going to change our force. The only thing they fail to say in this is that how to increase money and stuff for the forest, tourism. Now, people can come and do everything they want to right now in that forest. With this, they won't.
They'll limit it. They'll charge you to
Forest Service already, because environmentalists has already shut down, just in our area, 500 miles of trails and roads already. and she wants to put more. How in the hell are you going to get that done when the Forest Service went through all those hearings for 5 years almost to do it? Now she wants more of those, and no logging, period. No, this will make she says the forest more healthy because there won't be nothing done to them. So there won't be no problem because they're all going to burn anyway. But they will burn eventually. A forest is like a orchard. If you don't thin, get out the disease and the old growth, they die. And it gets worse and worse. And I can take you up there 100 places in a mile and show you where there's not a wildlife around because they can't get through it. So there's so much dead brush and undergrowth. So I'll be working on that to bring to us too, because she's trying to get the president to do this before he goes out. If he does, we're screwed, doomed, and tattooed.
I think the United States Congress has to approve a monument.
No.
Can't
The
be done
president
by
can sign it off.
executive.
He's done more than any president so far.
Really?
Any president. And
he can just do it?
It's the 1907 Antiquities Act.
Wow. That's not right.
He can do it automatically. It's in here. You need to get that out of the president meeting. You guys need to read this.
Well, I think, I don't know if it's in that same issue or whatever, I think it was the day before, but they had a little tiny article back in the 8th page of Fresno Bee talking about our good friend, the yellow spotted toad.
Oh, yeah.
All the fires have basically
wiped them out.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting. So
She's got the fishers. She's got
one of those oxymoron type.
Right. She's got the fishers, the frog, and the spotted owl in here saying how this is going to protect them.
Yep.
But look what happened when they spotted owl shut a log.
Fringe. Any more legislation report? Nope. Supervisor report? We'll start with Brett.
I would just like to ask for the hearing on September 12th, if we can move it to 6 o'clock p.m. We've got nothing to hide. Vulcan has nothing to hide. I think it just allows for more transparency, allows people to come out and weigh in. I'd appreciate that.
County Council? That should be in the legislation report.
It can definitely be discussed, the time for the special meeting during supervisor reports and why you might prefer one time over the other. However, I want to remind you that this board will be acting as an adjudicatory board in the near future, and with that comes some due process considerations. So statements either supportive or critical of the project made outside of the public hearing should be avoided. But again, you can definitely talk about why you prefer one time over the other, but be very, very careful not to discuss the substantive project.
Tom?
Yeah, I gave that some thought, but we've had bigger projects in front of us, and they've always been during the day. We've never had a hearing like this in the evening. And I don't even know what our rules say, but if people want to come to that, they can come. I mean, look at the people who are here, took their time off to come and talk about wages and stuff around there. And this place will be full. There's no problem there. And if the people can't, if this is that important to them, they can't get a half a day or whatever they want off work. I mean,
it's going to be full either way. And I realize that it comes down to the appearance. Like I said, Vulcan has nothing to hide. We have nothing to hide. Let's take that portion out of it. Let's take because we'll have.
We're not hiding it when we have a public hearing during the day. Yeah. It's not being hid.
No.
Absolutely not. That's my opinion. You guys, it's in my district, and I really like to keep it on regular thing. And like I say, if we set this one like this, then every time we have a hearing on anything, they'll be saying, let's do it at night.
Madera Quarry was
any comment?
6.
The what?
The Madera Quarry was at 6 o'clock.
It's always all planning commission meetings at 6 o'clock.
For the board.
No, it wasn't. We never had a night meeting. I guarantee you we didn't. Absolutely not. Guarantee you, man. Never happened since I've been on the board. And Maxwell and I was on here when it went through.
We had one when we had, because I asked you to, a hearing and we had one person show up.
Right, exactly. One public person.
A little embarrassing.
Okay. Thank you, though, for your concern. I do appreciate that.
What about a public comment period at 6 o'clock p.m. for those that can't get off work?
If we're still going that time.
I think basically if they can't get off work, I know I can't say anything about this, but we're getting plenty of letters, we're getting plenty, and we will announce those on the 12th. Plenty of emails, both ways. And Ron is keeping very good track of both of them. So, yeah. I get about 10 a day. So, anyway. Okay. Any date? Supervisor report?
Yeah, I attended RCRC and continue to focus in on forest issues, big issue for RCRC. And appreciate Tom's representation on that and Brittany's as well.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
And a number of other issues that relate to small counties. We're really a great organization, RCRC.
What are they saying on the pot bill?
On the what?
Marijuana bill.
They feel like it's going to be a real problem for counties.
I know they're the ones that
are they supporting it
a couple of years ago.
No, they're not supporting it.
They're not. Yeah.
It was interesting that they had Colorado there. What was that, 2 years ago, Dave?
Yeah.
No, last year. It was
last year.
Yeah, last year Colorado and Washington both were there. Remember? We were in those.
Yeah, they came and they said that.
I know.
They were talking about how it was a problem for them now too. It's been no panacea.
Yeah.
It's a problem for
It's a big problem.
And
they're getting stuff from schools now that huge problem as far as education.
Increase in DUIs.
Yeah.
The other thing, I'm a reporter. I'm on the air board. You know, we had our meeting last Thursday, and we've actually voted to put more money in the truck replacement program. We moved the date from engines from 207 up to 202 up to 207. So more people are eligible, and we lifted the number 3 trucks on the fleet. They can go to more companies that's got more than 3 trucks can now apply for it and get the money for replacement or those filters. Now, I mean, I think it's crazy to put on the filters $30,000 in those things, and they have a lot of trouble with them. But the replacement, so we put a lot more money in it, and it's now available. We just passed that last.
The filters do work.
Huh?
The filters do work.
Yeah, they do, but they have a lot of trouble with them, and they're expensive to fix them. So, but they got a lot of money for replacement of trucks too. So we've done after how many they said already in the valley here, just in our district. So we expanded the program.
Anything else? Report? Nothing. The only thing I have to report is I thought it was really good because it was kind of like a City County, Madera Unified, Madera County Board of Education and stuff. And Brett and Max and myself attended. So there's 3 of us, so I wanted to report that. But the Virginia Lee Rose Elementary School, and if it wasn't for the county, basically helping them with property, that school would not be built. The thing that I want to mention, that day, Ed Gonzalez said, let's get the heck out of here because there will be 100 trucks coming in dropping dirt on that place in 1 8-hour period. So thought that was very interesting. And boy, once the ceremony was over, they were loading that land up. But outstanding. My mom and Virginia were very good friends, and she was really an activist, I'll tell you. And she fought for kids, that's for sure. So John is just as active in the military and fighting for vets. Just an outstanding two people. So
they bringing dirt in or hauling it out?
They're bringing it in.
They're bringing it 100 loads. How come you run today? How come you run have no water?
Anyway, that's it. Any other reports? No, nothing. I don't think we have anything else. DeWitt County Council, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.